Chris Lee and Blayne Gilmer of Southeastern 14 here to preview one of the most eagerly anticipated games of the Southeastern Conference season. That is Missouri's road trip to Athens, Georgia, where, according to our friends at BetOnline, Georgia is about a 16-point favorite with an over-under of 56, making for an implied final score of 36-20. Bulldogs were super impressive the last couple of times out, bludgeoning Florida and Kentucky, one of those on a neutral field, one of those at home. Missouri got a week off. The Tigers 7-1 with some really nice wins, only loss being to LSU. Can't wait to see this one on CBS, the 2:30 CBS game, and appropriately so.
And we have some, diehards here. Charles Conway, who is a friend of the channel, he's excited for this one. Chris Taylor, Andy Stowe, who are friends of the channel, they're excited for this one. So if you want to be a part of our community, make sure that you're liking, subscribing, turn on notifications. But guys, this is a matchup that you kind of dream of. It's that upstart team looking to, climb their way to the top of the SEC against now the Goliath in college football in Georgia, the back-to-back national champions. I'm excited to see it. You've got playmakers all over the field, and it is really a dynamic matchup in terms of Luther Burden versus that Georgia secondary. Brady Cook involved, Carson Beck, they're all playing well. I'm excited to see this one in between the hedges, Chris.
All right, Missouri offense averaging about 34 a game. Georgia giving up a tad bit under 15. Brady Cook has been so good all year. This offense is averaging 7 yards a snap, turning it over just a hair over 1% of the time. Georgia forcing turnovers at a higher rate than it normally does, giving up just 4.6 yards a game. And I feel like we saw Georgia's defense the last couple of weeks in dominating the performances against Florida and Kentucky get back to being dominating Georgia. But, hey, Missouri is a team that's found balance. With Cook, it's got Luther Burden, who is an absolute headache to cover, and it just plays smart and doesn't beat itself. And I'm very interested to see how this side of the matchup materializes.
Yeah, and they're efficient in the run game as well. Everybody talks about Luther Burden and Brady Cook and Theo Weiss and all these guys that they have over there, but also Cody Schrader's done a heck of a job. You have to think the bye week leading into this one has helped him recoup that quad pull that he had a little bit there, and even with it, man, he was running right through some defenses and things like that. So that's always good timing for them. But it's going to be tough sledding to be able to run the ball in Georgia. I think this one is going to be dependent on Luther Burden and can he make plays. There's going to be one-on-one situations, as we saw with Eugene Wilson, that first drive of the game for Florida, beat Dalen Everett and had that slant that went to the house. So teams have been able to have success on Georgia early. I think Missouri will be able to have some success offensively early. Can they sustain that success? Can they protect Brady Cook? Georgia is not a just all out, bring a bunch of pressure deal, Chris, in terms of rushing the passer. But if it gets to third down and you let Jalen Walker and Jordan Hall and Xavier Ansari and some of these speed guys they have, plus Jamon Dumas Johnson blitzing around, looping around on some pass rush stunts, things like that, then it gets scary for your offensive line. So I think that's going to be the matchup. How does the offensive line of Missouri hold up versus that pass rush on key third downs versus Georgia?
Yeah, and look, Georgia is not a team that relies on pressure and forcing turnovers. It just gets straight up stops. But it has shown the ability to be disruptive with both forcing turnovers and sacks when it needs to. Did that against Florida, and so keep that in your back pocket. Also keep this in your back pocket. The last of the major sports pro leagues has kicked off this week. That's the NBA. NBA, you're dead to us this time of the year because we're in the football.
Cares, but you can bet on it with BetOnline.
You can. It's your top spot for NBA action this year. MLB postseason, which, boy, that's been crazy with the Diamondbacks. NFL and college football and the NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering odds, news, trends, and predictions. Get everything NBA at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile access for every sport. head to Bet Online today. Get in the action. Don't forget to use the promo code BELIEVE to stop or to get your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. Yeah.
I mean, you got to like getting 50% bonus on top. So, hey, you're halfway there to a little profit already if you go ahead and be a first time depositor over there at Bet Online. So, see where, even if you just want to go over there, test it out, look at for all the odds, the over and under and stuff like that. If you're in a state that allows you to do it, you might go over there and venture to Bet Online and have some fun with those guys responsibly, of course, Chris.
Absolutely. Well, I think most people would have bet against Missouri being 7-1 coming to the season, and the defense had been pretty good. Maybe not quite as good as I thought, but man, it's still talented. Chris Abrams-Drain, Joseph Charleston, the guys they've got up front, Tyron Hopper. Missouri's giving up 23.3 a game, 5.3 a snap. Georgia is scoring 40.5 a game, 7.2 yards a play. That, I think, is the second best number in the conference behind LSU. Much was made of Brock Bowers not playing in that last game against Florida. Guess what? Didn't matter. They found Ladd McConkey and Dominic Lovett and all kinds of folks to catch passes over there. They've got the running game has been pretty consistent. Carson Beck is playing his way into the Heisman conversation. Georgia's offense has really been clicking lately here, Blayne.
Yeah, I mean they've got more weapons than some third world countries, Chris. I mean they just line them on up, and one of those came from Missouri and Dominic Lovett via the wonderful transfer portal that we have in college football now. That's been a point of contention for Missouri fans, Chris. A lot of them in the chatter, you get the feel of the fan base. They're like, why would Dominic Lovett decide to go to Georgia where he's not going to be utilized as heavily? All these kind of things. Well, now he's being utilized pretty heavily, Chris, with Brock Bowers out. He had a 55-yarder that he ripped off against Florida and had 9 catches in the game before that with Vanderbilt, things like that. So Dominic Lovett's starting to be used more. But, yes, there's a lot of depth behind Brock Bowers. You can't replace Brock Bowers by one person. It has to be a collective effort, and that collective effort was certainly there. There's only one person in all of college football that has a higher passing grade this year, according to PFF, than Carson Beck, and it's Michael Penix at Washington. So Carson Beck is playing very, very good football. He needs to be able to connect on some of the deep shots that are wide open. He's overthrown a couple. That's kind of been the one fault of his at certain points in time, but he takes care of the football. Now, even though this Missouri defense hasn't been as elite as maybe we thought it was, we thought the Missouri defense, as you said, would be the strength of this team, Chris. I mean, Am I wrong? I mean, we thought with all the experience coming back.
You're not wrong at all. Yeah. And it's been good, but it's not been great.
Yeah, we thought it would kind of, put the team on its back, so to speak. And with Rakestraw, Abrams-Drain, those guys kind of locked down. And there's been times where there's been some lapses and they've been able to give up some big plays, but they are a consistent defense. They've seen a lot throughout the years. Like I said, very experienced. I don't think they'll be daunted by the environment. Even a couple of years ago, some of these guys came into Athens and played well against this Georgia offense that had a lot of playmakers, and they did so last year in Como. So what it's really going to come down to is, can they get any kind of pressure on Carson Beck? Georgia is the least sacked team in all of the SEC, Chris, and he could have ate a sandwich and made another order for groceries that week against Florida. I mean, he had all the time in the world, and if Missouri can't get pressure on him, then I think that's going to be troublesome for them in between the hedges. And then also, if you're Missouri, as dangerous as it is with all those weapons, you got to stop the run. You can't let Dejan Edwards and Kendall Milton, kind of death by 1,000 cuts against you, or then you'll really be in trouble if Georgia has balance in their offense.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but Georgia's offensive line got a little healthier last week too. Did it not?
Yeah, a lot healthier. Marius Mims ended up not playing. He could have played if he'd need to. He ended up not playing. Xavier Truss was back after spraining his ankle against Vanderbilt, so the bye week helped him. And Austin Blasky is getting to the point where he can play as well. So now Georgia is truly 8-9 deep at offensive line, where they were about 6 deep a couple of weeks ago. So and all those guys can really play. So Georgia is sitting sitting pretty at offensive line right now.
All right, some computers that I like to look at and what they predict with the home field advantage. Pretty close to what Vegas has. ESPN's FPI, team rankings, Jeff Sagarin, all have the Bulldogs as 15-point favorites. The one that's a little lower is SP Plus. That's got Georgia as a 12-point favorite. So anywhere from 12 to 16, depending on whether you trust one computer or odds makers. Look, Blayne, I thought a couple weeks ago this had the makings of a terrific game, and it still does. But I think Georgia's answered a lot of questions the last couple of weeks. You had the Carson Beck stat. We know the defense is going to be really good. Look, this is not Kirby Smart's best team, but it's plenty good. And I think this one being in Georgia, everybody fired up for that 2:30 kickoff. 16 points might be a lot, but I think Georgia wins this one.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about this, the home field advantage has been huge in the SEC all year, Chris, even more so than normal years, it seems like the home field advantage has. And I think one team that has kind of bucked that trend a little bit is Missouri, right? They went on the road to a tough place to play at Kroger Field and really blew out a good Kentucky team. Eli Drinkwitz has these guys playing tremendously well. I don't know if I like the number. I think I was talking with Charles Conway and some other of our Missouri faithful here in the Daily Show chat room, and I was just telling them, hey, I wouldn't be surprised if I would take Missouri plus the points on anything, 8.5 or over. You know what I'm saying? I really think it could be that kind of a game. But I think in the end, Georgia is too talented. They have too many weapons. I think they're better on both lines of scrimmage. I think it's a good competitive game and will be. I could see it being a one-score game in the fourth quarter, late into the fourth quarter. But I think Carson Beck is playing some of the best football in the entire country, and he has all those weapons. This is going to mean a lot to Dominic Lovett. I think that Georgia wins this one. I would stay away from – I don't bet, but I would stay away from that number and just say Georgia wins it outright, Chris.
Yeah, I think so too. Our channel, of course, presented by Bet Online, so we thank them for that. We thank you for watching and listening. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, come in and help us out afterwards in our post-game show with your questions, your comments. We always look forward to that. We'll do that probably after everybody's done on Saturday night, so look forward to that. Appreciate you all. Thanks for watching us here at Southeastern 14. We'll see you again soon.